After running this tank for a year, I think that if I were to do it again, I'll probably... Hey, what's up, Reefers? A lot of you guys have been asking what is going on with the tank gadget 10-gallon budget nano tank, because I have not talked about it for a while, and that's a reason for that. The short story is this: I am in the process of breaking down the 10-gallon budget nano tank simply because the 150-gallon tank is coming up, and I actually have a new tank that's being cycled right now. What? So I'm systematically taking down the 10-gallon tank, and things are slowly falling into disarray as I move corals out of that tank. Let me show you what the 10-gallon tank looks like right now. Alright guys, here it is. I've always been straight up with you guys. That's why I did not even clean the glass at all. I thought, oh, should I clean it up and whatnot? Nah, forget it. Let me show you how it looks right now. I'll explain all the details. So the tank has been running like this for maybe like 4 or 5 weeks. I've just not done anything to it and slowly moving some of the corals out, namely the frog spawn and the hammer, because they were not happy at all. And as you can see, the frog spawn still opens up really large, and the kryptonite candy cane is actually doing really well. Gorgonians have been pissed it off recently, but it's slowly peeking back out again. I got some of these little hair algae growing. This tells me that there's some excess nutrient in the system. So what I'll do in this case is actually run a little GFO to soak up the excess phosphate. But to be honest, I did not really do anything at all to this tank, because again, I'm kind of dismantling this tank and trying to fit corals that make sense into the 45-gallon tank, and also move all the rest of the corals to that new tank. So the budget nano tank has been up for almost a year now at this point, and it has been really stable. Well, before this month, because this month I pretty much just like did nothing to it and just kind of let it run. And on my Instagram, I actually posted saying that, okay, the 10-gallon budget nano tank has been running for a year. At this point, it's pretty much proven that this setup works. And I feel like at this point, the 10-gallon budget nano tank is pretty much a replica of the 45. And I wanted to do something different, whether it's with this tank or with other ones. What did you guys think? Overwhelmingly, the comment pretty much supported what I was thinking about doing, to kind of just like move beyond a 10-gallon budget nano tank, because I feel like this project is done, it's proven, it's good to go. Let's move on. But for now, the snails are really enjoying life. My baby is like making noise, getting ready for food. Hey! Oh, that's why. Here you go, buddy. So very likely this may be one of the last videos you see of the 10-gallon budget nano tank. This has been a really fantastic project. Set out for a challenge of setting up a affordable tank, and I really feel that it has been proven in this case. It has been running for like a year or so, and was able to sustain a lot of softies, LPS, and anemones. Now, I had an emergency where I dumped all the corals into this tank, and I feel like through that process, definitely tossed some of the parameters out of whack, but it was slowly recovering and whatnot. But then, of course, I got super busy, and then I stopped paying attention to this tank, and things just went south pretty quickly. Now, I feel like it is bouncing back, but with the mangrove tank up and running and probably going to be finished cycling in a week or two, I'm just not really spending too much time with this tank because it's going to be teared down anyways. So that's where this 10-gallon tank sits right now. It has been a fun journey, but I think the next time, there may not be a next time you see this tank. That's kind of sad, actually. The next time I talk about these livestock, most likely they were scattered within the 45-gallon tanks or the 20-gallon mangrove, which is going to be awesome. Kind of sad now. You know what guys, I'm gonna fix up this tank first before we break it down, because this is like such a sad state to break down a tank. Let's clean it up first, make sure things are healthy, and then we're like, you know what, things looks good, let's end it on a good note, versus like a mess like this.
3 weeks later.
All right, Reefers, as promised, we clean up the 10-gallon budget nano tank a little bit, and then we let it run for about 2 or 3 weeks. And things looks a little nicer, isn't it? So all I did was clean up the glass a little bit and did a small water change, and everything is back to normal. As you can see, things are happy. And for this system, because the coral is so low maintenance, it's pretty easy to get things back on track. So there's benefits to a small body of water as well. Like if you want to make corrections, just do a water change, and usually that'll take care of most things. And as you can see, the clownfish is really hungry. But let's talk about this tank, shall we? So first of all, like I mentioned, I removed the hammer corals down to the 45-gallon tank because this tank was just way too packed with all the corals in here, and it's driving the alkalinity and calcium down to the ground. So I removed the handleable coral, and I removed 2 big frags of frog spawn, and then a big chunk back here that's in the shade and in the process of receding because it's not getting enough light. With those corals gone, things look a lot happier. Now we're back in balance. Before it was just like cramped and coral is just growing on top of each other. They're not getting enough light and they're fighting for nutrients. Moderation is good, right? Even though I would not call this moderation. This is still pretty aggressive, but at least now everything is happy, everything expanded and back in balance. Gorgonians back open, which is really good. Kryptonite candy cane looking puffy and happy. Awesome. Fish always happy. Now the zoas, I removed a lot of them and moved them to the 45 simply because the frog spawn, I was having one large piece here as well, so stinging a lot of these. So I started moving them, trying to grow another zoa garden in the 45. That's why they look kind of sparse and sad right now. Another big issue is that you see that I actually have a lot of aptasia that I have not addressed. Right here as well. So in terms of targeting aptasia, there's more right there and right there. So for aptasia, of the ones on the glass or on the sand, I just kind of scrape them and just or siphon them out really easy. For the ones on the rock, these are trickier. If I could pick up the frag, I'll just try to scrape it off the frag plug. But if it's on the rock, usually I will use Aptasia X. But the problem with Aptasia X is that they tend to come back after a while. So for these guys, I'll probably just Aptasia X and keep an eye out. But for these, I'll try my best to kind of pull the whole plug and scrape it off the plug. These guys though, I'll just kind of get it off the sand. All right, so looking here, I still got quite a few sexy shrimps. I got 3 right here. I see 1 here, and I think earlier I saw another one somewhere. And there's also the first inhabitant of this tank. That is the Halloween hermit crab, still doing well. Hey, where are you coming? It's like jumping over to me. And of course, we got DJMM and Nemo. They're a little bit larger now, probably almost doubled in size since we've got them. And they're in really good health, and obviously we're really hungry. And looking over here, the walking dendro is still walking around, and it looks like the one head is splitting into 2, which is I'm kind of curious. What happens then? Like, we only got 1 worm. Does that worm also self-divide? I don't know. Well, so that's gonna be interesting to see. The mushroom though, they're not doing as well. We got that 1 mushroom right there. The jawbreaker is like a tiny dot now. I mean, there's still some tissue there, but it's on its way out. However, I think it is turning around now that I've got the tank's parameter back in check. There's the other big mushroom in the back. Now looking at the tank, you may be questioning, okay, so what happened? What was out of whack? Was it all the corals? So I think it is a combination of things. I got lots of corals going on, and I think that definitely drive down the alkalinity and calcium. I was just not able to keep it up, and I did not keep a close enough eyes on it. But I think the major factor was actually phosphates. So I'm not sure if you know, but I did mention in the past that in the back of the chamber, I do run 1 bag of GFO. It's been a while since I've changed it, and I started noticing a lot of hair algae started growing on the glass. That's when I know, okay, something is up. High nutrient, extra phosphate, more phosphate than the biological filtration and the macroalgae can take care of in here. So at that point, I figured probably the bag of GFO has exhausted after a couple months. However, I did not immediately change it out, which I probably should, and I think that definitely contributed to a lot of the water parameter issues. When I mentioned that, okay, let's fix things up, I did a water change and also change out a bag of fresh GFO, and I think that really helped. And that kind of lead me to another thing that I want to talk about when it comes to this 10-gallon budget nano tank. Like these days, people will message me saying that, hey, how do you like the modified AquaClear 70? Is Refugium? Like, is this still what you recommend? After running this tank for a year, I think that if I were to do it again, I'll probably forego the Refugium. Because like if you look, right, the macroalgae did not honestly grow much at all. Now, to be fair, I am running GFO, and the reason I'm running GFO is because like I feel like the Refugium, the macro, is not really growing even before I put GFO in. And now that I put GFO in to compete with the macroalgae for phosphate, the macroalgae just did not grow at all. So I really don't see too much benefit from a small Refugium, at least in this particular system. Now, I know other people who have done the 10-gallon budget nano tank or just budget nano tank in general has success with the Refugium. They may be using different light. Sometimes people ask me what light bulb is this that I got from Amazon. I didn't really recommend it because it's not really growing mackerel for me at all. Whether it's because of the lack of phosphate or whether it's the light is just not strong enough. Regardless, just did not work for me. So I did not recommend it at all. If I were to do this again, I think I may just completely skip the Refugium. I was just gonna load it up with biomedia like what we got here, marine pure spheres. And then I'll just run GFO. I feel like this combo is good enough. If there's something major like dirty water or whatnot, I may throw in some carbon for a week or two and then pour it. But I think GFO for a small system, double up with water change is totally fine. And I think like within this 1 year, we have proved that even a small system like this, as long as you pay attention to maintenance, which I did not the last couple of months, a system like this is totally sustainable, at least for like softies and LPS. SPS, I did not have too much success with. It did not die, but it did not grow or did not color up. So kind of like this. But softy, LPS, definitely no problem. In the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I'm gonna break down this 10-gallon tank. Things have changed a little bit. If you're a follower of this channel, you know that last week my 45-gallon tank sprung a leak. So that changed things a lot. With that in mind, I think what I'll do is actually keep the 10-gallon tank running at least until the 150 gallons ready for corals. In case the 45-gallon tank really just have a blowout, everything's on the ground, I need tanks that I can put the corals in. So I do have a 20-gallon mangrove tank that is coming out of cycle, which can hold some corals, but it's definitely not enough. So I think I'll keep this 10-gallon tank running in case something catastrophic happens, and so I have place to put corals as well. Sorry, we changed a plan since 2 weeks ago. So we're gonna keep this tank up for at least another, I think, 3 or 4 months until I'm sure that 150 gallon is up and running and I can start transferring corals from the 45 to the big tank. Sorry for the semi-clickbait, but the intention was really to shut down this 10-gallon tank within this 2 weeks time. The 45-gallon tank is actually really packed, so I may actually start moving some corals back into this 10-gallon tank. I don't know, I may start selling some of the frog spawn in here because these guys are growing really well, and I feel like I can sell some here and then start moving some stuff back from the 45 to here to lessen the 45 gallons load in case anything bad happens. Let me just feed these guys right here. This is a mix of prime reef flakes and sustainable aquatics pellets food, and as you can see, these baby clowns go crazy over them. Really love them, and the sexy shrimp as well. They're looking for. Oh, here's a piece of food. Let's see if we can find. Oh, the hermit crab's going forward as well. Look at that. This 10-gallon tank also have a lot of Bristol worm. Look at that. Look at all these guys right here, and there's just 2. Whenever I turn off the flow, all of them just come out as a ridiculous amount. Also, low key, one reason why I want to shut down this tank. There's so many Bristol worms in here. It's gross me out. Alright guys, so this is a pretty casual video on the 10-gallon budget nano tank. Really started out with the intention of just breaking this tank down, saying goodbye to it, but things change. Get to stay up a couple more months, and if you have any question about this tank before I break it down, leave in the comments. I'll try to answer it. If I cannot answer it, I'm sure somebody will chime in as well. With that said, I'll see you guys next Sunday at 12:30 p.m. sharp. Bye bye. That is a lot of power.